Three, two.
Hi, my name is Pursino. I grew up in Brooklyn, and you're watching a movie about the Mafia, the silent Mafia. And where I grew up in East New York, Brooklyn, which is the southern part of Brooklyn on the Queens borderline. And unbeknownst to me, growing up as a kid, I had no clue what Mafia was or gangsters and criminal activity was until I became a teenager. And what happened was the projects that we lived in had 64 families in one building and 22 buildings to the complex. So it was like our own little city. And everybody knew each other, even though you didn't hang out with everybody, but you all knew each other. So I was seeing this girl at 16 years old, and we were over our house in the basement listening to the jukebox down in the basement. And all of a sudden, her brother comes downstairs with a bunch of guys, all Italian guys, and they come down. And he didn't even say a word. He just looked at her, and she looked at me and said, "We got to go." So they were having one of their meetings. I had no clue until she told me when we left and whatnot. So now I started learning more about who was who and who was what and what they were doing. As a matter of fact, one of the guys from the neighborhood, there was two neighborhoods. There was on each side of the project, there was the old mill, which is on the west side of the complex, and then there was the hole, which was on the east side, going towards the Queens and whatnot. And there's a lot of activity, and they used to find bodies there every year, believe it or not, in the hole, and also down the old mill by Spring Creek. Spring Creek used to go out to the Bell Parkway and then shoot over to the Queens. So as time went on, I started learning more about who was who and whatnot. And I started working for a guy from the old mill. And of course, I'm not mentioning any names, but I was 16, I was working with him, and my job was to help him take parts off of cars and things like that and run errands. And so one day he tells me, Vito's going to drive you up to the junkyard over in Pennsylvania Avenue, he says, and you're going to take the air conditioner off the car. And then I went down and said, okay. He goes, and when you're done, you bring it to his house. He says, but don't accept any money from him. He's going to offer you money. He said, but do not. You tell him I took care of it. I said, okay, Jimmy, no big deal, So he picks me up. He picked me up and was driving down to the junkyard, and he stops on every corner almost at Bexley Street, Brooklyn. And everybody knows him. Now I see the connection with that. And then when I went to school the next day, all the people around that he was talking with, they said, what are you doing with him? But they knew who he was. Did you know the guy? I said, yeah, I work with so-and-so. He's not doing everything, and whatnot. And so eventually I took the part off. Oh, by the way, when he went to the junkyard, he told me, hey, kid, that's the car. Take it off. I said, okay. He walks over to this other guy who works there and starts smacking the guy in the face. And the guy's going, oh, Vito, sorry, Vito, I didn't mean it, Andrew. I was sorry. And he kept smacking him. I said, oh, shit, man. I didn't want to mess around with that. So he left. And then that guy brought me to his house later. So I knock on the door. Nobody's answering. I kept knocking. And then this old lady on the second floor, all dressed in black with the white hair. It was the guy's mother, and she said, who are you? What do you want? I says, Vito home. I says, what do you want my Vito? I said, I got parts for his car. So he comes and opens up the door, and I'm giving him, he reaches in his pocket to give me money. I said, no. Jimmy took care of me. No, you sure, kid? I said, no, Jimmy took care of me. So more and more I got involved, and then I was working for Jimmy, fixing a car, taking the cars apart and doing different things. The police from the 75th Precinct, which was a movie made about them because how corrupt they were at the time in the 60s. And they'd drive down, let's say on a Friday. Every once in a while, here's a car. He walks up, talks to him, hands him an envelope. An hour later, another car pulls down, hands him the envelope. So they were all getting paid off and do what they had to do. So eventually I got more into it because what Jimmy was doing was doing they called tag jobs. They go to the junkyard and they buy a junk car, a car that was in a wreck, a new car. They take the tags off of that. They go steal the car, the same make and color and everything, and put the tags on it, and it's legit. Matter of fact, excuse me, you got my stepfather a car. Back then, the car was worth like maybe $3,000, and those would be like four-door big car. And I got it for $1,500. He drove it for like 6 months, and he was paranoid because it was a stolen car, and he didn't know what to do, and this and that stuff. He didn't want to do it. So I called up Jimmy, and he says, I said to him, yeah, my stepfather is panicking in the car. He doesn't want it. He's nervous, this and that. He goes, okay, tell him to bring it to the yard, give him $150. I'm not mentioning the guy's name at the yard, but he said, bring it to the yard and give him $150. Now, either they'll take it and resell it or take the parts, whatever they're going to do, they do. So we did that. Meanwhile, my stepfather claimed the insurance. He made $1,500. He got $300. He got $3,000 for the car. You know, so all these things started happening. Then no time it was me and the guy Jimmy with two other guys were on the Belt Parkway, and there's a Cadillac stuck on the side of the road. So we pull over, and it's a doctor. He ran out of gas. So Jimmy says, all right, I'll take it. We'll get gas. He went and got gas. We put gas in the car. So the doctor was so happy that he got help. He gave him his business card, right? So later that evening, I guess while the doctor was in the office, we went and we took his car. So that's what used to go on, things like that. You know, then later on, as you get older, you'll find out who's selling drugs and stuff like that, which a lot of people didn't agree with at the time. You know, but there was a lot of stuff going down. So then what happened was, me and my friend Vinny were in Howard Beach, Queens, by the train station, and there's a soda shop there. We were hanging out. My car wouldn't start. So what happened was, the guy from the shop drove us home. Next day, me and Vinny went to get my car. Somebody chopped my dashboard apart. Instead of taking the radio out like a normal person, they just chopped the hell out of it. Okay, so what they did then was, I had to take the wires to get the car started. So I said to Vinny, I said, you know where this car's going, right? So we went down to Spring Creek near the old mill. And I turned around and had my foot on the brake, a rock on the gas pedal. I dredged it with 5 cans of dry gas. I didn't realize how powerful that dry gas was. I lit it. It was like a flamethrower. It shot out, hit the ground. Now, because my foot came off the brake, the car goes into the creek and blows up. Now, friends and family found out what I did. That almost became my part-time job. You for a friend, an associate, my girlfriend's aunt, things like that. They all wanted their cars to go, you know, and collect insurance. So I was doing that. Now, the guy Jimmy that I was working for was going to buy a gas station in Brentwood. My mother and stepfather lived out there. And he said, Greg, I'm going to buy one of those gas stations out there in Brentwood on 111 and stuff. He says, why don't you come out and you move out there and you work for me? Okay. I said, like what? What do you want me to do? He says, like we do now. I said, no, I didn't want to get too involved with that stuff, you know. And I was at the age now, getting older, and I seen guys go away to jail, and I seen all these problems, and I didn't want anything to do with that. So I went and got a regular job, which I hated, several jobs and stuff. But that was constantly going around my neighborhood. All stuff started happening. You started to know who's who, who's and whatnot, who's connected, who's not. Now it's funny because I went out to California. When I came back, I was working on this job, and there's 2 women, my wife's aunt and cousin, were telling me to go, oh, you should see her, we'll take her out, this and that stuff. I didn't want to, but I did. So one day, we're in the den. She's playing the piano. I see a car pull up outside. The father goes over to the guy and starts talking to the guy, right? And all of a sudden, the guy gets out. I looked at him. I went to her. I said, oh, my God, is that so-and-so? She goes, oh, yeah, you know my father's friend? I said, yeah, I know him, all about him. He was one of the guys who came down the basement when we listened to the jukebox, never leave. And he went away to jail for a long time, him and another guy. So now I find out the association with my future father-in-law, he's part of it too. And he lived out in Long Island, but he lived from the old mill. That's where he grew up and whatnot. Now he's living out in Long Island, and I'm going to marry his daughter, and he's connected too. And they were doing the same thing with the cars and this and that stuff, you know? And, you know, that's about it. But you'll learn more about that's what they call the silent mafia. You know, not too many people know you get these people that say, oh, I'm connected. I know this guy. They're the big mouths. They're not connected. Because if you're connected, you keep your mouth shut and you do what you got to do. But I had the opportunity to advance in that. I said, I didn't want that. You know, I was raised by my grandmother and my 3 other brothers. And when my mother and father left, I was 4, my other brother 3, the other brother 2, the other brother 7 months. And she went through a lot to keep us straight so we wouldn't have any problems. And I feared my grandmother. more than I did the guys in the street. I'll tell you right now, she didn't take no crap. And I was the oldest, so she had to deal with me and set an example, you know. So she was quick with the belt, quick with the stick, you know, then the other kids fell in line. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the film, The Silent Mafia, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of you people. And that's just a touch about Brooklyn. Now, Brooklyn has plenty of neighborhoods and stuff, but that's my neighborhood. And East New York, and my friends that grew up there, we all say the same thing. If we had to do it over, we go right back to the projects in East New York and do it over. All right? Thanks for listening. My name is Greg Pursino. Hope to see you at a festival. Take care.